If you enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe to Scarf and Goggles on YouTube and check out our other content. The formula for land speed record breaking is clear. To go faster, you need to reduce drag and increase power. The most successful early challengers for the world land speed record routinely concealed large aero engines beneath the sleek bodywork of their vehicles. By the mid-1930s, with the record at more than 300 miles per hour, one huge motor was no longer enough, and Brits George Easton and John Cobb both built dual-engine cars. Easton's Thunderbolt was the more powerful, Cobb's Railton the more aerodynamic. Cobb had finally taken the record to nearly 400 miles per hour in 1947, with man and machine at their limit. With the land speed record in British hands since 1929, as the 1960s dawned, John Cobb's record remained unbeaten. But records are made to be broken, and in Ontario, California, two American boys were hatching a plan to bring the record back to the US with a home-built Hotrod. The 426 Chrysler Hemi racing engine was a formidable power plant, producing almost 600 horsepower from 7 litres. Put one in a slim chassis, cover it with a streamlined body, and you'd have a very rapid automobile. Not rapid enough for the land speed record, though. How about 2 Hemis? How about 4? By 1963, Bill and Bob Summers were Bonneville veterans. From 1955, each new car the Summers brothers brought to the Salt took first place in its respective category, and almost always established a new national class record along the way. Runs ranging from 175 miles per hour in a 1929 Ford Model A to 323 miles per hour in a front-engine streamliner earned the brothers a formidable reputation and the attention of heavyweight sponsors such as Firestone, Mobil Oil, Chrysler, and Hearst. When the Summers brothers began the Goldenrod project, the FIA World Land Speed Record rules declared, "It shall be a land vehicle propelled by its own means, running on at least 4 wheels, not aligned, which must always be in contact with the ground. The steering must be assured by at least 2 of the wheels, and the propulsion by at least 2 of the wheels." Additionally, to negate wind effects, the recorded speed would be the average of 2 runs in opposite directions, made within 1 hour. The Summers brothers would not be the first to take aim at John Cobb's 1947 record using multiple V8s. Mickey Thompson had built Challenger 1 around 4 supercharged Pontiac engines and was on course to beat the record in 1960 when mechanical trouble stopped the car on the mandated return run. Thompson was lauded for running at over 400 miles per hour on his first pass, but it was a hollow victory. The official record still stood. Following Thompson onto the Bonneville Salt in 1960 was legendary speed king Donald Campbell with the exotic Bluebird CN7. With a turbine driving all 4 wheels, Bluebird looked a good bet for the record, but the car was wrecked when Campbell lost control at 350 miles per hour, and he was lucky to escape with his life. It would be several years before Campbell and Bluebird would be ready to try again. Fast forward to 1964, and in their tiny workshop in California, the Summers brothers prepared to build something special. Bob would be the designer, engineer and driver, whilst team manager Bill had a knack for finding sponsors and doing deals. After a year of courting technical partners and with funding in place, Bill and Bob Summers set their sights on the world land speed record and began development of their ultimate streamliner, Goldenrod. Bob Summers was a self-taught engineer with a natural flair for creating fast cars, proven time and time again at Bonneville. With Goldenrod, the challenge was to package 4 engines in a way that minimized aerodynamic drag whilst providing enough traction to use the huge power available. Bob's solution was to mount the big V8s in line in a 2-inch tube frame chassis with the engine's crankshafts joined in pairs. The rear pair of engines faced backwards, providing torque cancellation by effectively rotating in the opposite direction to the front pair. Each pair of engines was connected via a transfer box to a common drive shaft that ran down the left side of the car, with synchronized transmissions front and rear, driving all four wheels. The four hand-built 426 Hemi V8 racing engines provided by Chrysler were fuel-injected but unsupercharged. Each 7-litre unit was tuned to produce around 600 horsepower at Bonneville, running on methanol. Custom-built exhaust and induction manifolds allowed a surprisingly compact installation in Goldenrod's long chassis. The car's four 16-inch wheels were fitted with tyres custom-made by sponsor Firestone, designed to run at up to 600 miles per hour. Four-wheel independent suspension was built to Bob Summers' own design. If the mechanicals hidden inside the car were a work of genius, Goldenrod's stunning bodywork was a work of art. Renowned Lockheed aerodynamicist Walter Koff had created a stable design uncluttered by wings or fins, and the resulting long, low teardrop shape boasted a drag coefficient of just 0.1165 and a frontal area of 8.53 square feet. Once the design had been proven using a 6-foot model in Caltech's wind tunnel, the aluminium shell was hand-formed by a bodywork specialist in North Hollywood. A month before construction of Goldenrod commenced in August 1964, Donald Campbell had finally broken John Cobb's 17-year record, raising the target to 403 miles per hour. However, the combination of Bob Summers' extraordinary engineering and Walter Koff's aerodynamics meant that Goldenrod's ratio of power to frontal area was 3 times higher than Campbell's Bluebird. With 2,400 horsepower on tap inside slippery golden bodywork, the Summers brothers had every reason to be confident as their car took shape. Perhaps Wayne Toms, the team's press agent, said it best. It's the longest, narrowest, lowest package of piston horsepower in the history of the land speed record. Goldenrod was 32 feet 9 inches long, 4 feet wide, and just 2 feet 4 inches high, rising to 3 feet 6 inches above the cockpit. Despite its sleek lines, the car weighed in at more than 4 tons. Bob and crew chief Jim Crosby worked around the clock building the car, while Bill sourced parts and materials. 1 year and 1 week after they began construction, Goldenrod was ready. On September 1, 1965, the Summers brothers headed to Bonneville. Between 1963 and 1965, while the Summers brothers had been fundraising and building Goldenrod, the arrival of the jet age had forced fundamental changes to the rules of the World Land Speed Record. In 1963, fellow Californian Craig Breedlove had run at 407 miles per hour in Spirit of America, but as his 3-wheeled jet car didn't conform to the FIA's rules, Breedlove's attempt was not recognized as an official record. When Donald Campbell set a new record of 403 miles per hour in July 1964 in his wheel-driven Bluebird, he was awarded the World Land Speed Record, despite running slower than Breedlove. Later that year at Bonneville, a titanic 3-way contest took place, with jet cars raising the unofficial record to 536 miles per hour. The story of the epic Battle of Bonneville is told elsewhere on this channel. Finally, in December 1964, it was agreed that new rules would allow thrust-powered cars to compete. The records set by Breedlove and the Arfons brothers were all recognized retrospectively, and Art Arfon's 536 miles per hour was suddenly the new mark. Both Goldenrod and Bluebird, built within the old rules and with no hope of competing with jets, had effectively been reclassified as competitors for the wheel-driven record. The Summers brothers, towing their new creation in a converted horse trailer, arrived at Bonneville in early September 1965, confident of beating Campbell's 403 miles per hour record. Their initial optimism was dampened by mechanical issues and poor weather. Stuck in second gear, Goldenrod managed a disappointing 245 miles per hour, and as the team worked to fix the car's problems, their allotted time on the Salt ran out. Rather than return home, they continued to work on the car at Bonneville, waiting for a break in the weather, and an improvement in their fortunes. On September the 26th, Bob drove Goldenrod to 367 miles per hour, but as their confidence rose, the rain fell once more, this time hard enough to send them home. All they could do was wait. A month later, the team returned to Bonneville, but despite a run of over 400 miles per hour, Goldenrod suffered more mechanical problems, finally destroying an engine when a broken gear allowed it to over-rev. With major repairs needed, and Bonneville unavailable for the remainder of the season, the team went home dejected and prepared to wait a year until they could try again. Then a phone call from Bonneville changed everything. Fellow Firestone runner Art Arfons had been locked in a battle with Craig Breedlove once again, and had broken the outright record but badly damaged his jet car, Green Monster, in the process. With several days left of his exclusive access to the Salt, Arfons was offering the Summers brothers the lifeline they needed. The Bonneville course was available for Goldenrod, if the boys from California wanted it. On November the 12th, with just 2 days left on the Bonneville course, Bob Summers ignored the rain showers and drove Goldenrod through the measured mile at 412.7 miles per hour. The car was turned around and roared off back down the course with 5 minutes to spare, the 4 V8s screaming at 7,000 RPM. The run was perfect, for an average speed through the mile of 409.277 miles per hour, more than fast enough to claim a new wheel-driven record. Donald Campbell, whose crown Bob had just stolen, called to congratulate the team who had beaten his £1 million Bluebird with their self-designed, home-built Hotrod. It was a staggering achievement for two American brothers who lived for speed. Bob Summers couldn't resist one more run. The day after he set the record, he and Goldenrod made one more pass, this time at a staggering 426 miles per hour. Summers remarked, "I didn't even shift into fourth gear. I would say this car is good for 450 miles per hour, and that's what we'll go for next year when we try and raise the record." In the end, though, Goldenrod never ran again. In just 8 runs, the Summers brothers' vision had been tested, validated, and the record broken. Chrysler took their engines back, and their whereabouts are lost to history. Goldenrod toured the US and later the world, appearing as part of an exhibit of land speed cars at the 2000 Goodwood Festival of Speed. Goldenrod was purchased by the Henry Ford Museum in 2002 and became the subject of a total restoration to repair the damage that nearly 40 years of Bonneville's salt corrosion had inflicted. The car is now on permanent display at the Henry Ford. Made famous by their record-breaking success, Bill and Bob Summers went into business making and selling specialty race car parts, but they gradually found it hard to work together, and their business was eventually sold. Bill Summers died in 2011, aged 75. With brother Bob, he had taken on the world land speed record and had proved that American backyard ingenuity and engineering was truly world-class. Since 1963, every outright world land speed record has been awarded to a thrust-powered vehicle. Purists would argue that a car with a jet or rocket engine isn't a car at all, and the true definition of a car is a vehicle that is wheel-driven. Others maintain that speed is all that matters. It's an argument that will run and run. Goldenrod's wheel-driven record was finally broken by Al Teague in 1991 in a supercharged car. However, when Bob Summers died in 1992, Goldenrod was still the fastest normally aspirated wheel-driven car ever built. That record wasn't broken until 2010, almost 45 years after that historic day at Bonneville in 1965. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe and check out Scarf and Goggles for more tales of record breaking. Click the bell icon and you'll never miss an episode. Until next time.